Hey friends, Mike and Jess here.
And welcome to Regeneration Nation TV. Today we're reacting to a video called Why Europe is Insanely Well Designed. This is OBF.
All right. Well, we've never reacted to a video by this channel. So yeah, we've got links for their channel down below, links for this original video down below. And yeah, I'm very interested in this video. I'm very interested indeed. Why Europe is insanely well designed. That's the description. I was looking for more info in the description.
Giving us
and
a
it's
little,
just the title again.
Give us a little bit more.
My goodness.
It's up in the air, so.
Okay, so let's should we read the clarifications? They gave some clarifications on this video.
Yeah, let's read those.
It's quite long. I want to give some clarification because a lot of people misunderstood what I said in the video, and I missaid some things as well. The map at the beginning of the video is a mass transit railway line
that go between the nations.
Between nations, which I then compared to the mass transit railway lines that go between the United States, the U.S. states. The map also includes ferry routes, which I know is a bit confusing because I didn't state that in the video, so apologies for that. Here's an interactive map so you can click around for yourself. Well, go to this video in the pinned comment. He's got the link for that. I do switch between talking about the European Union and Europe a few times throughout the video, which might have been a bit confusing as well. When I say the EU's road network is not nearly as congested as the US, it's true. And I think people got confused because they thought I meant Europe, which would have contradicted my statement because European nations are in the list I show. I do know that I said Europe instead of the EU once when showing the list. However, so that's a mistake. Sorry for that. The fuel prices I showed were from 2021 because I felt they were more accurate long term since prices have gone insane recently.
That's fair. And that's awesome for them to break that down because I guess people have brought that to his attention. So
there's a lot of videos that we watch like this that a lot of people, in the comments of our videos even, they're like, this is not like that, it's like this, and things like that. And I think it bugs a lot of people whenever there's a video like this that tries to educate people, and there's a lot of things that they get wrong, or they misspeak, or they misspeak even one time when 5 other times they said it correctly, and it throws the entire video off. And yeah, so I get that. So hopefully us reading out that correction in the pinned comments maybe curtails that a little bit. We'll see. Let's get into this video though.
This is a map of Europe's mass transit railway system across 33 countries. The yellow lines indicate the presence of a train line, and as you can see, it's very dense. There are hardly any spaces where there isn't any coverage for railways. Now, if we compare this to a map of railroad tracks in the US, it's a different story. While parts of the US have some good mass transit, there are large areas of the country which isn't covered by Amtrak, the nation's largest passenger railroad service. But let me show you another map, this time of high-speed rail in Europe. Now obviously, high-speed railways aren't going to be as common as regular speed railways as they require excellent design, strict planning, and massive investment. And yet, as we can see, high-speed rail is present in Europe, which is a stark contrast to the US, as you can see from this map. While the US does have some higher speed rail, like the Aquila line in the Northeastern Corridor, it's hardly an effective map of transport solutions. And the Aquila line isn't really that fast either. It can reach about 150 miles per hour, but averages less than 70. This is not the case for Europe's insanely well-designed railroad system. And you have to remember that Europe's system accomplishes this while spanning 33 different nations in a very diverse continent. And I know what you're probably thinking. This is just because Europe is smaller than the United States, which simply isn't true. While the European Union is smaller than the US, continental Europe has an area that is about 1.04 times as much as the US. So we can dismiss this argument that the United States can't be that well designed because it's too big. Europe simply is better designed. But
somebody actually said this in the comments. Somebody else was like, let me go back. Yeah, they were like, continental Europe is much larger than US. It was based on something that I said. So they're like, your statement just isn't true. And someone was like, are you including Russia in this? And so I wonder if he's including Russia in this. or not. I have no idea. But yeah, that's just, I guess, a question for you guys in the comments.
As much as the US. So we can dismiss this argument that the United States can't be that well designed because it's too big. Europe simply is better designed. But if you're American, you might not understand why railroad tracks or public transport as a whole is so important. I mean, driving a car works fine, right? Well, no. And Europe showcases why a primary focus on private transportation is so detrimental to a well-functioning transit system. Look at these maps. They show the US road network versus the EU's. And as you can see, the EU's road network is not nearly as impressive as the US's. And yet, when you look at some of the most congested cities in the world, European countries don't feature particularly prominently in the global rankings. This is pretty shocking information because you'd assume that the country with a more expansive road network has a lot less congestion, especially considering the United States has devoted lots of time and money to their highways. So how come Europe is less congested when they have fewer roads? Well, it all comes down to disincentivizing the use of cars and, most importantly, making an attractive alternative. Europe does this by having both private and public transportation infrastructure, which technically the US has as well, it's just a lot worse. But on top of this, Europe makes it pretty expensive to buy, own and use a car. This is achieved by having high taxes on vehicles and gasoline. In fact, here's a map of worldwide gasoline prices. As you can see, European nations are in the top rankings, while the US lies at the bottom, charging very little. But let me be very clear, it's only a good idea to make it expensive to drive a car if you have an attractive alternative, which America doesn't, but Europe does. I mean, obviously this wouldn't work in the US with its current transportation infrastructure, but in Europe, this is a great strategy because you make the roads less congested for those who actually need them and give everyone else an affordable and efficient alternative, being Europe's amazing public transport like the trains on the railways. This is arguably the better strategy because even though the vast majority of Americans have access to vehicles at around 91% and gas is comparatively cheap, it still leaves 9% who don't have access to vehicles. What are these people who can't afford a car supposed to do? I mean, sometimes public transport isn't even an option or simply too expensive for many. So you've now actively excluded those who aren't exactly the most well off from society. To make matters worse, some US cities actually got rid of their public transport to make room for more cars. I'm not joking. American streetcars like trams were actually removed to make way for bigger roads. Absolutely insane. Compare that to...
Dude, I mean, to give a little context of us, like, I grew up in Florida, mostly around the Jacksonville area. She grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, where, I mean, honestly, they feel very, like, similar areas to me.
Yeah.
Especially the outskirts, like the suburbs. We have, like, public bus transport. Like, there's a bus route that goes around. Somebody was shocked to hear in one of our earlier videos that we've, like, never ridden on a train, which we have, but it was a Christmas event, and it
like went around in a loop. It wasn't like a traveling
one. It didn't
one
even
that
go
took
in a loop. It
yeah.
went down here, and then it stopped and went back, and it was for a Polar Express, like, Christmas type thing
themed,
that we went and took our kids on.
Yeah.
So that was the only train I've ever ridden on, but it's because, like, especially here in Jacksonville, where we live now, it's really just a bus line. When you go downtown, they do have a tram line, but you'd be shocked to see how little area that actually covers.
Yeah.
You can't really, I mean, you have to, like, ride it from here, get off at this one, wait for the other one to come, then get on that one.
Then
it's not really a straight shot to get across the city like that. And we've ridden on the tram just for fun a few times because it's high up in the air.
You can see a lot.
We live in the river city. Jacksonville is known as, like, the river city, so it goes over the river. It's very cool. We've taken her family on it a few times. Some friends that came into Jacksonville for the first time on it, because you kind of get a good look at Jacksonville on the tram.
Yeah.
But there was, like, very few people using the tram. There was a homeless man sleeping on it one time, and it's 2 seats.
Yeah, it's tiny.
It's so tiny.
Yeah.
So it's
not going to fit a bunch of people.
That.
Yeah, it's not going to fit a bunch of people at a time. It's like
it's not efficient. It's not really. It's just most people can't use it. If everybody switched downtown Jacksonville to using that thing, there would be huge lines.
Yeah, be waiting forever.
You'd be waiting forever, yeah. So yeah, like us, we don't have a lot of experience. From what I understand, like in San Francisco, I've never been, but I always see the I would call it a tram as well. They have it on the road that picks people up and rides them around. I've really only seen it in movies.
Yeah, like
but
a
it's
trolley
like
or something.
It's like a public transport system. It's like a trolley, like a tram system.
Yeah.
New York has the subway. I think a few other cities have subway systems that they're more commonly used. But like the United States as a whole, I don't think there's a lot of cities that have a good public transport system.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not a priority, it seems like, which sucks.
Because we have cars, but then that excludes,
but like you said, there's like a huge, it's a big part of the population that can't afford cars, and they would really benefit from that.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how much it costs to ride the bus around the city. I've never ridden the bus around the city.
Were actually removed to make way for bigger roads. Absolutely insane. Compare that to Oslo, Berlin, and Madrid, where discussions are underway to restrict or even exclude most cars from the city center. And let's not forget that when you have cars, you also need somewhere to park them. And this is where things start to become rather ridiculous. You see, the United States has 2 billion parking spaces for 250 million cars. That's 8 parking spaces per vehicle. In Europe, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 with around 250 million public parking spaces for 300 million cars. But to emphasize the ridiculousness of this even further, the area that the US dedicates for car parking is actually larger than the area dedicated for housing people. It's honestly unbelievable that people are being squeezed out of American cities due to regulators wanting to make more room for parking spaces. This simply wouldn't fly in the EU, as it has a whole policy dedicated to improving urban planning. See, the EU spent 115 billion euros between 2014 and 2020 to improve city design by making it smarter, greener, and more connected. Simply meaning they allocated funds to make their cities more efficient, more connected, and better for the environment.
Dude, that is so dense right there.
I would
allocated funds to make their
absolutely love if there was a possibility that America could take on this a little bit more, because I would really love to go to the Senate, like St. Augustine. There's only a little bit of a portion where you have the cobblestone streets where it's literally just people walking. There's no cars allowed there. You see cars driving on the outside of it, but in that circle, there's that would be awesome to have more of a mass of that. Yeah. And not have cars be allowed to drive in there, because it's so nice to be walking around. I don't know, just a lot more free. Like, I can see the connectivity to being open. I don't know. I just, a lot of things Andy going through my brain. Liverpool,
but he rides his bike all over the place, and he uses the train a lot. So it's just like, when I've talked to him and he's like, I'm going over here, I'm taking the train here, I'm taking the train here, I'm riding my bike here. I'm like, that's like not even possible here. Like, even when I was gonna get into riding my bike more, for fitness. There's one road in our entire town that has a bike lane, a dedicated bike lane. It is so dangerous.
It is very dangerous.
He's like, I go on 60-mile bike rides all the time. I'm like, I don't even know where I would go on I would have to ride on that road back and forth, and forth, just to safely be able to ride the bike.
But even then, I just don't know. I just feel like there's so many crazy people. I wouldn't even trust that. It's so scary. Like, I tried to ride my bike to work.
Upon.
I rode my bike to work maybe once or twice in the afternoon. Obviously, I don't want to do it at night. But even so, when you have the crosswalk light and people are supposed to be paying attention to that, there's so many people that don't pay attention to that. So when they're going right, you can turn right on a red here. They don't pay attention to anybody walking on the sidewalk, driving on the sidewalk, riding on the sidewalk.
They don't come to a full stop and
They don't. They're ready to go, because then they don't see any cars going on the road. They're ready to go. They're not looking at the sidewalk.
The more people realize how the lack of respect for cyclists is not there, the less people do it. It's just become fewer and far between. And then I've seen people who are cycling, riding on the road, get honked at, get yelled at. It's becoming less and less of a thing here, which is sad. Yeah, this is man, there's so much that we get to. What a dense city, though.
I
Like,
love
this is such a dense
I
city.
love the idea of getting out of your car, being able to get fresh air, being around other people. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like encouraging everybody to do that. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But I just like that. It makes us more social as a society. It makes us be around people, feel fresh air.
Benefits.
I feel like there's so many good things that could come out of that than being secluded to your own car in your own space. Like, you need that sometimes,
like,
but
we'd have to have. Jacksonville is a very spread out city. It's the largest city in the U.S., but it's not dense really at all. Downtown Jacksonville is very small. It's a very spread out city. It's only the biggest city because of land mass. I cannot remember the exact square miles of Jacksonville right now, but most jobs that I've ever had, I'm driving for 20 to 30, 40 minutes to get to the job site, to get to the place of work. And that's most people. You know, they work very far. I remember when your parents lived here, you know, your dad spent 30, 40 minutes driving to work every day. And that's most people.
Yeah.
Most people literally have a 30 to 45-minute ride to work, which the first job I ever had to where I lived right across the street, what did I do? I started riding my bike, riding my skateboard, riding this little electric scooter across, because I'm like, this is a waste.
Yeah.
If more people lived closer to their job and it was more feasible, I feel like you would have less need for cars. But most people, I don't know, it's just the norm to drive 30, 40 minutes away to your job. It's really ridiculous.
Cities more efficient, more connected, and better for the environment. And better for the environment they really are, as the average resident in a typical Western US city, such as Los Angeles or Phoenix, contributes approximately 6 times more carbon to the atmosphere per capita than an average European city resident.
Wow.
This is purely the result of not having effective transport solutions, which saves resources and allows people to move about efficiently. And exactly that, moving about efficiently, is something most of Europe's citizens are able to do as a result of the European Union. See, most of Europe's nations are in the European Union, which gives the EU citizens a number of perks, which includes a free travel area. This has been one of the most important achievements of the EU, as it makes it possible for an EU citizen to travel freely to other EU member states and stay for up to 3 months. All they need is a passport or even just an ID card. No visas, no trips to embassies, no form filing, just head straight over. This makes it incredibly easy to travel, study, and work in other countries and communities, and having this level of centralization is very important to good design, as it gives the smartest people the opportunity to work where they are most useful. And since good design obviously requires a lot of complicated problem solving and planning, this is very smart. Another smart thing is the incredible biking infrastructure we see in Europe, perfectly illustrated by this map of bike path density in Europe. All the purple lines are bike paths, and there's clearly a lot of them, especially towards the left side of the map, but that's just because this is the home of the Dutch, the Netherlands. Now, the funny thing is, I won't be able to compare this to a map of bike path density in the United States, because such a map hasn't been made. At least I wasn't able to find any, and I can only wonder why. But anyway, what Europe and also the European
I'll tell you right now, there's so few bike paths, especially on the roadways. Like, I don't know how the bike paths work there. Are they coincide with a street? Like, here, the only one that we have in our town, it's the road, and right before you get to the sidewalk, there is a like 3-foot bike path. And it's very sketchy as well. And the lack of respect for cyclists and everything like that.
To find any, and I can only wonder why. But anyway, what Europe and also the European Union has achieved is pretty remarkable, as it's hard to think of another set of such diverse countries where you would be able to travel so freely, in an efficient and inexpensive manner. I mean, you can literally get from Paris to Amsterdam, for example, in just 3 hours for around $30. Imagine being able to travel all over Asia without any border crossings, checks, or visas, and being able to stay for months at a time.
Oh man, I have a friend in Scotland, and every other freaking month, he's like, I'm going here, and going here. Different countries. And I mean, over there, it's, you know, all of these different countries make up the EU, and that's where he's going, all within these countries, within the EU. But he's able to just go and travel to all of these countries. He's like, how many countries have you been to? I'm like, 1?
Yeah, the United States. That's it.
I how many states have I been to? Like, even then, it's
That's like
under 5.
Yeah, I would say count it on
It's
one
sad.
hand.
And it's because
It's so
it takes
expensive
us
to travel
10
even in
hours
yeah.
to get to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Which
It's so
is
long.
How many miles? It's like
600.
700
about 600,
miles.
yeah.
Yeah, that's about a 10 or 11 hour drive.
Yeah.
Depending on traffic, it could end up being 12 hours.
Way more, yeah,
It's
with
ridiculous.
stops, with family.
It would be so nice to be able to travel around like this.
Mm-hmm.
I've got more thoughts. We'll save them for the end of the video.
That would be truly amazing. And let's not forget that European design has always been distinctive and very successful. In fact, the continent's history of design and interconnectedness serves as a model for the rest of the world. But even though Europe and the EU are pretty great and have amazing infrastructure, they obviously aren't perfect. And I'd love to hear some of the reasons it might not be, so leave a comment down below if you have some thoughts on this. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, let us know some of the cons you feel like.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are going to be like, no cons.
Yeah.
That's it. There are none. I'm sure we'll get that. Oh, man, there's a lot of these videos that we react to where people in the comments like, why don't you just move? Just move. Just pick up and move your family over here. We'll welcome you with open arms, which we really appreciate. And I think the biggest thing that would stop us is family.
Yeah.
Like, unless I could pack up all of our family, my family, her family,
And make sure
move
they
them
come
all
with us.
It's just...
It would be hard to leave.
It would be so hard to leave family like that, and just...
But
you're
living...
risking never seeing some of them again.
Yeah. Because
You
it's
know?
hard. It is hard for us to think about traveling overseas, just the expense of it, and then having to come back and forth. It would be expensive. It would be worth it if we could do it, but living there, like, aside from that, that's literally the only reason, is being away from family. But aside from that, seeing the way that Europe is run and how they have everything, the things that they have different, makes me want to go there. Like the differences that they have.
Yeah, I can't deny
it is so beautifully designed, and it's designed for people, not for corporations. And I feel like that's the difference between America. But it's just beautiful seeing that. That was so lovely. I would love to ride my bike everywhere. Like, I would be so nice just to be...
The world cannot function at this point without corporations. They employ so many different people, but it's the difference between this overly capitalist mentality here. That's the difference. I feel like the biggest difference, you know. Like, there's my brother's a business owner. He's a small business owner, and by him being a driven individual, having this desire to own his own business, he's created jobs for other people, you know. So and that scales up and up and up. It's just the problem that we don't have a lot of, you know, government mandates stopping these people from just raking their employees over the coals.
Yeah. I feel like in Europe there's a lot more of the people's voice being heard as well. Like, I feel like there's more integration with that. Like, people are actually heard there, and there's a lot more where they're getting citizens, like, ideas and thoughts, and I think they're more involved, if that makes sense. Like, that's what it seems like to me. So I feel like there's more of a benefit for them.
They look at human beings, it feels like, especially in the Netherlands, where he showed all of these bike paths and everything. It's like, how does a person feel biking through nature? First of all, it keeps you fit.
Yep.
Seeing the world like that, seeing your fellow human being on a constant basis doing the same thing, like, it boosts morale.
Yeah.
It gives you good feelings. And I don't think that we put, you know, a high level of importance on happiness.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
It's just
like you
productivity overall.
Yeah, like you said, here it's so
still,
normal having a 30 to 40 minute commute to work and from work. So when you get home, you've already been working for 7 to 8 hours, and then you drive for almost an hour home from work with people that are road raging, with, you know, just sitting in a car on the road anyway. Like, it's just, like, not a good feeling. Like, maybe you could have your windows down.
It's like they don't even care. It's like, hey, you're going to live 30, 40 minutes away. We're not even going to make sure that you can have an enjoyable ride back and forth to work.
Yeah, you're going to be stuck in traffic.
Our road systems are terrible.
Yeah, they are. Pretty terrible. I would definitely like something to change with that. But
don't ever drive through Atlanta, Georgia. Like, it is known. It is known. If you're going from Florida to Tennessee, it is known.
Go through the Carolinas, friends. It's beautiful.
You're literally driving more miles to get around.
Yeah.
And it'll take less time.
Yeah.
to drive way
less
longer
stress.
of a trip.
I mean, maybe a little stress because when you go towards where the cliffs are, it's a little bit scary. But
yeah, the first time when we drove through the Carolinas to get to Tennessee,
it
I
is
was freaking
absolutely
out.
stunning.
I've never seen a mountain
Yeah.
up until that point. I was like, oh
he was glued to the window. It was a very magical experience, I think. But
Can you
yeah.
imagine being me? I live in Florida my entire life, which Florida is a very flat state.
Yeah.
We don't ever get snow. I've never seen snow still to this day.
Yeah, we got to do
I've
that.
never seen a mountain until in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Being able to see a mountain in the horizon when you're driving is just a different thing. And I definitely took that for granted because when we were driving, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not taking a picture. I see this all the time. But he'd never seen it before. I never even thought about that. But that's such a magical experience. All the more reason to have more opportunities to be outdoors and be able to travel. And even traveling on a train, I feel like when you're not driving and you're not distracted by you having to take the wheel and drive and pay attention to signs, and you can take in what's around you a little bit more too. So having more of a bus transportation system or a train transportation system would be. Is that rain?
The rain just kicked in. That's
trickling.
Another beautiful thing about Florida.
Yeah, right.
It's probably sun shining bright out there.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden
rain falling.
Click.
Yeah, that was interesting. I really do enjoy watching these videos, and they do get me thinking, like, why don't we just pack up and move, man?
Yep.
Why don't we just do it?
But that is our reasoning.
Family. It is family. That is the like number one thing that stops us, because we are a family of 5. All of your family, most of them have five kids.
Yeah.
There's so many people in your family that have 3 to 5 children.
Yeah.
She's got a huge tight knit family, and it's just, we only get to see them once a year now.
And then it would be so much.
Making that longer.
Yeah, it would be. That was really awesome. I really love getting introduced to more videos from all around the world and seeing how things are different and the contrast, and maybe thinking of ideas of, I don't know how we would implement that here, but it's really nice to see the things that we could change. But yeah.
It boggles my mind why some things, you have all of these different countries all over the world, and why we don't just get together once a year and it's like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, that works well for you. Let's see your numbers. Oh, that's happiness is increasing doing this, all of these things. Oh, this isn't really working. Let's trade ideas. Like, it's 2024, man. It seems like we would be picking up more and more things from each other, and we're just not.
Yeah.
We're just stuck in our ways. It's sad. Anyways, thanks for watching with us. We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below.
Yes, definitely.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, friends.
Peace.
I'm not scared of your love, so show